Oh, OBS. Thank you. Please update it. There you go. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to session 8 of Writer's Block, where we each bring 3 words and we do some ad-libbed improv world building based upon that. If you didn't watch the previous session, it was a very cool one. We sort of delved deep into a concept we hadn't yet previously explored. And my challenge for the both of us for this episode is to barely mention it. So just do something completely new and spring off in a different direction. So, and I brought
Dang.
words appropriate for said thing. Um, so yeah,
Okay.
I like
All
springing
right.
things on people.
Yeah, I
Would you like to
actually
start with
made
the first
words
word?
this. Yes, right. You go first because I was under the impression we were expounding on what we did last week. So let's let you lead first, sir.
I'm mostly fucking around. We can tie it back in. I just don't want it to make it the main focal point of this session.
No, it's okay. I'm just going to take all the words I have and just use them in a totally different way. Disregard everything.
See, that's fun.
You first. You first.
Sidereal.
Oh. Oh man, I haven't heard that word in an age.
Of or with respect to the distant stars, i.e., constellations or fixed stars, not the sun or the planets or anything like that. These are distant stars, things in other cosmos, other galaxies, etc. I thought that would be an interesting one. Let me make sure the font is too tiny.
I got you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll just leave that spot open so it looks nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sidereal. I like the idea of doing something cosmologically based because we've talked about a lot of like the metaphysics of how things work, but is hereafter, is it a starless sky? Are there other parts of hereafter that lead to different places? Like is it an entirely different universe, or is it a different realm with different things in it? And I was wondering what the stars would have to do with anything, or if things could come from the stars to visit, or are those just different levels of the afterlife in the distance? The twinkling eyes of dead gods, who knows?
I love that. That's a very cool and poetic idea.
Thank you.
I actually, the funny thing is, I never until you mentioned it, I never looked up the word. I've just heard it in the past. I used to play Exalted, and in Exalted, the tabletop role-playing game, like the major factions are aligned to stars and celestial patterns, specifically our sun, our moon, and there was a fourth faction called the Sidereals, and I was like, the hell are these guys? And now I know they're star related. So
Yep, distant
thank you.
stars, of course.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's see. Never mind. Okay, go on with your first word.
You're good. All right, I'm gonna go with transient.
Transient's one of my favorite words.
Transient's a good one. So I'm not gonna lie, I pulled this word out of my butt because I had 3 words written down, but I'm gonna save them for when we go back to that last thing.
Fair enough. Next week.
Yes, next week.
I want to let it brew a little bit in our heads.
Yeah, exactly. I like transient as a word because there's one, like, it's often used in the same terms as like someone who's a vagabond or a wanderer if you're describing a person. But also there's something a little bit more graceful and purposeful, something that's transient. It's meant to pass through. They choose like this isn't just a meandering path or a thing that just happens to blow on by. Transient implies, to me anyhow, a degree of intention, a degree of grace, and that's always something that I've enjoyed. Like the phrase transient experience, or like that, your life is a transient experience. You move through it, it passes. I like that. There's a beautiful kind of energy to the word transient that I just wanted to bring today. So
I like transient a lot as a word because, yeah, it does have a sort of romantic take on things. It's not quite describing somebody who's, say, like a vagrant, but like it does have a bit more of a purposeful note behind it, because vagrants is just like vagrancy, or a vagrant is like somebody who is there who isn't supposed to be there, and then but a transient is somebody who floats to place, a true wanderer.
Yeah.
This word isn't okay anymore, but hobo would be a great term for that. That was the old term for a transient, because they would ride trains and just go everywhere and go get work wherever they could, etc. And I feel like that's appropriate for a setting in death, to where you don't really need to settle down in death. So
Yeah, no, agreed. Also, I just like the impermanence of the word too. Also, I didn't realize that hobo was considered a bad word. I knew it was never a nice word. Yeah, I would never call someone that. I didn't realize that was considered foul language nowadays.
yeah, it's because people hobo is specific to train hopping homeless folks that would train hopping transients that would just go from town to town. Unfortunately, people these days use it to describe homeless people. So,
yeah, that tracks. Okay, I see that.
and as somebody who lives in a town with a lot of homeless people, I have a lot of empathy for them, and I try to help them out whenever I can. So the last thing I'm thinking of is fun and creative insults to give them.
No, that's very fair. That's very fair. I live in Vermont, highest amount of homelessness in the entire country per capita. So, like, I feel you on that.
Hey, Springfield used to be the number one. I guess you took over.
Yeah, it turns out when you have a very low number of people per capita, it's pretty easy to swing. But also on top of that, it's pretty bad up here. So that's fair. That's my next word. Let's go on to yours.
Obfuscate. Fucking underline. Hold on.
Ooh, obfuscate. Interesting.
Obfuscate. Okay. This is obfuscate means to render obscure, unclear, or unintelligible. So we have a lot of beings in the setting that are themselves self-obfuscating. I wanted to sort of explore that word a little bit more, maybe look at it from like the perspective of magic or some sort of effect, something that like maybe your past is obfuscated through some means or what have you. Maybe souls that had incredibly violent deaths have their past obfuscated from them, and there's only half of them here, and the other half of them is still a spirit in whatever realm they once came from. We could come up with a name for those things, but just like I said, just the word obfuscate, as I've shown, is like, it's interesting to me, because when you create a mystery, you create a story, and when you create a story, you start to make little mysteries, and we'll have to answer all those questions. So, obfuscate is to put the fog of war on the battlefield.
Yep. That's what I'm most familiar with that word as, sort of that. There's that cloud that hovers over a space, and you're like, oh yes, they have obscured my ability to perceive the region. Also on top of that, there's just something I very much like that word as well. It's just got a very fun kind of intentionality to it. Things can become muddied or hard to spot, but obfuscating means willfully blocking someone's ability to see something. So that isn't just like, oh, it's a little hidden from view, like by accident. No, someone is intentionally hiding something from you if they obfuscate something. So that's an interesting word for what we got here. I like that. Next word on my end. Technically, this is 2 words, but it can be written as 1 word. I choose the word ley line.
Here we go. We gotta have ley lines. It's a magic setting. You gotta have ley lines in it.
No, okay. So, hear me out.
I'm listening.
All right. So, the idea of ley lines don't have to be hard or like rigid. So the original concept of ley lines, there's like a bunch of different subcultures that have this, but primarily the idea is given credit in like 20th century Europe, where people believed that various historic structures and important places, like prominent landmarks, would naturally have energy to them, and then they would track to one another by having these invisible lines. We have like taken that idea of like these invisible lines of power, intentionality between these. We've taken that to like nowadays Magic the Gathering, giant glowing like fissures in the ground.
Yeah.
I like the idea more of ley lines in the idea of like hidden paths, or sort of like a flow of energy. So where like a flow of energy, like as depicted again by the magic cards, the crazy powerful, insanely visible stuff. No, no, no. I like the idea more of the hidden side of it. So this is something that's subtle, elegant, gentle, and something that implies perhaps either knowledge or a hidden path, but not necessarily, again, giant glowing line in the ground. I think we've seen plenty of that in sci-fi, hell, and fantasy. I can't say I haven't used that myself in even things like a Tanria or in Legacy.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of that, the invisible connections between different things. We can play with that idea, but I like the idea of it subtly if we're going to use that. I definitely don't want to have the bright-ass glowing sky beam thing. We're not Marvel. Or DC. Or a superhero movie in the early aughts.
One of my favorite depictions of like a ley line, not using the word, I've been reading The Dark Tower, as I've said multiple times. There is the beam, and all things serve the beam, and the beam always leads back to the Dark Tower. And the beam isn't exactly visible, but it has a physical influence on things around it, almost like there's like a path carved for it, and like you can just be on it and something feels like perfectly level, like you feel like you're heading in the right direction. It like is like an otherworldly sense of ease and direction, and I liked that. I liked what King wrote with that, rather than those giant burgeoning glowing things of light that are basically just glowing rocks in the ground that have magical influence, as opposed to something that actually has true purpose. It serves the purpose of something else, and that's what ley lines kind of are in my mind. They serve something greater than it. It is literally a vein of the world, an artery, if you will.
It's literally like, depending on the culture, oftentimes, like, sometimes these are things that naturally occur. Other times, they're things that are born out in the same way that animism can create, like, you can create spirits in objects. You can have an object that naturally has a spirit. Paths can become ley lines if you walk them enough. Like, if I travel a road long enough, that road takes on a life of its own. And so, like, I like the idea of the history of it. I think explaining it and then turning it into hard science is something that a lot of science fiction and fantasy loves to do, and gets really dangerous. At least for me, from a narrative standpoint. But like, I like the mystery of it, the idea, the gentle, like, there is a pattern and a path, but what caused it?
I have a high preference for the since there's so many Sanderson-esque takes on magic these days where everything has a rule to it. I've really been enjoying delving into the idea of magic that doesn't really have an explanation, because guess fucking what? What is magic? Magic is something we don't understand. That's the definition of it. It is something that we are not smart enough yet to understand. And when you assign rules to it, I know I'm a big Magic the Gathering fan. It seems like oxymoronic for me to be saying all this, but from a narrative standpoint, when you attach nothing but rules, and the rules are how everything works, that's boring. That's unpredictable. The whole point of having magic is to have the unpredictableness. Like that's why Lord of the Rings is so critically acclaimed, is because the magic is not understood. All they know is, oh, this thing's very powerful. It's like, okay. They put it on their ring and they turn invisible. And it's just like, okay. But they don't know what the implications of that are. And then they find out the implications of that later. And it's like, it actually leads the wraith straight to you. And it's just like, oh, spoiler alert for an 100-year-old book. But no, I mean, I like magic without so much hard-nosed rules. Like, it's much more charming that way, and it's much more mysterious, and it serves a better purpose. And that's not to say that it always needs to be used to serve a narrative end. It could honestly, I think magic is better off used as a villain. But anyway, I could go into that. We should let me get my third.
You're good, man. You're good. No, I feel you on that. I knew what I was tapping into when I put the word ley line down. That was going to be a conversation. What about you? What's your next word?
Tapping into
And a
my
welcome
life.
one for that as well.
Thank you. So whenever I can't think of a third word, I always go with Merriam-Webster's word of the day if it's a good one. I really like this one. Insouciance. That's a $3 word.
Okay. Insouciance. Interesting.
Oh no, come back. I want to be in the middle of the page. Okay, thank you. Oh my god, how do you spell this? Okay, yeah. All right, Chad, I'm not a genius, okay? Just give me a break. Okay. Insouciance means a feeling of carefree unconcern. It can also be understood as a word for the relaxed and calm state of a person who is not worried about anything. So insouciance is like westernized nirvana almost. Like somebody that's just not really giving a damn about anything. And I feel like that word is perfect for a realm of death. Because like there are gonna be souls that just don't fucking care. Like why would they? You know, like they're
Right.
dead and there's not really a whole lot around that'll make them extra dead. So insouciance, yeah, just like perfect calmness and a state of unconcern, not apathy, but just not worryless.
It very much is the word very much reminds me of what people often think Zen is, not what like the state of Zen actually is. Or like the idea of pursuing a state of mindlessness is kind of what it is. It's like ultimate focus, kind of, by just like removing your higher functions from the equation, you are hyper present. That's what that is meant to be. People often view and they're like, oh, they're so serene. Yes, because they're not like starting any conversation in their head. They're entirely focused on the here and now, just observing nothing else. This is actually in a weird kind of way the opposite of that. It's like this. It is a surrender from the way it's been read. It's a literal like there's no worry, there's nothing to be afraid of, because you willfully choose not to be. That's such an interesting idea.
It's one of the more interesting
not
words.
Worried about anything.
Yeah, it's one of the more interesting words that I've dredged up recently, and the fact that it was a Merriam-Webster word of the day. Merriam-Webster's word of the day are usually pretty hit or miss. Not saying that their words are bad. It's just I haven't found one that's interesting in such a long time. I was like, I got to use this one.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFerrin. Yep. I was like, I know it's like a phrase specific where I heard this. Like, and that's...
Does he say insouciance in that song?
No, he doesn't, but people hold it up as like the anthem of that mentality.
That's fair.
Literally, don't worry, be happy. Like, fair. 100% fair. I dig it.
Yeah, he's cooking.
Yeah.
I think he's still around. But anyway.
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
He wasn't very old when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, he's still alive. 75 years old. Rock on, Bobby. Rock on.
He also has Parkinson's, which is unfortunate, but
yeah, alas. Well, he's still around. That's always a good sign, and at least there's treatments for a lot of that stuff now. So hopefully his quality of life is doing pretty good. All right, final word for me. Esoteric. Esoteric is one of those words I also love because it's really more of a vibe. Intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. There's a mysterious nature to like something that's considered esoteric. It generally considered like it's often used as like a synonym for mysterious. That's technically not true. Mysterious implies that like it's a question. Maybe nobody knows the answer to it. Esoteric implies that there is an answer and it is absolutely known by someone. You just got to find them. Somebody, somewhere, this is their personal thing. And I like this word because every once in a while, me and Lee will make jokes that this is my sense of like interest. I know I'm on the spectrum, of autism. I know I am. I'm autistic ADHD, and every once in a while we'll be talking about something, and Leo just like mention like a phrase, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's from this movie from this year." She's like, "How the hell do you know that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's like, yep, it's
Yeah, I'm not one of those
esoteric
magic
knowledge.
cards.
Yeah, exactly. I could
People be
tell you
like,
the
"Oh,
name of
this
nearly
card."
every. I could tell you the name of nearly every droid in Star Wars, even the newer ones that no one like talks about. I could absolutely do that. Like, I don't know why. I don't even give much brain power to it, but it sticks. And so I love esoteric, like that esoteric idea of like, you know, it's knowledge, and it's either not well-known knowledge or also intentionally secreted knowledge. In which case, it's almost it's almost like sage-like knowledge, where it's maybe someone is wise enough or knowledgeable enough to know this, but that's not everybody.
Right.
So, yeah. There's also a lot of really less nice ways of describing it. It's difficult to understand, obscure, abstruse, like stuff like that. And I'm like,
I've always heard it in a negative connotation until recently, to be honest, because like it's like, oh, that's so esoteric. How would anybody ever fucking think of that? It's just like, yeah, I mean,
mhm.
but that's also what inside jokes are. So
Yeah, there you go. I think it's because people also use it as a synonym for weird as well. And weird is one of those words that, depending on the year, it's either a good thing to be called weird or a bad thing to be called weird. Or if you're Weird Al, that's just your name. That's 6 words, my dude. I think we got something. And I will admit, I very much enjoy what we have. It's a very interesting energy we've got.
yeah, I'm not sure where to begin with this.
Okay, that's fair. Hmm. So let's see. Well, we were talking about, like, you talked about sidereal and like the stars in the sky, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I kind of like the idea of that. We could try to leap a little bit into that idea, depict like the sky a little bit, or depict like a little bit more background setting sort of dressing we've got in the setting.
yeah,
I really like the idea, especially the insouciance. I kind of like that. We have this. A lot of these other figures are grounded or exist on the towers, like as solid physical entities. These vessels, these mortals, who sort of go up and down and have their wars and their battles. And you mentioned the idea of people just don't give a shit. And it does raise the question, like, who's our neutral force? Where do they exist? Maybe they don't even exist on the towers. Maybe the towers are little people who just are literally for folks who still maintain that kind of focus of personality, that focus of drive that keeps them there and going. Maybe everyone else sort of floats away.
floats away. No, you said floats away, and I thought of that scene from The Boy and the Heron, when there's like these little round dudes that just like float away. They just like fill themselves up with air and they float away.
Oh man, I still haven't seen that movie, but I hear it's very pretty. So I probably
It's really
should.
good. It's just the only thing about the movie is, this isn't a spoiler. It just ends very abruptly. I feel like there could have been a lot more, and it just kind of ends. I know that's a lot of Ghibli movies where it just kind of like meanders on, and then it gets to the end. But like this one felt particularly like end. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's what I've heard. I've heard that it's a very pretty, beautiful movie in a lot of ways, and then it just kind of just it feels like someone got to the final act and was just like, okay, bye.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It almost feels like Miyazaki was just like, fuck it. Can't think of anything else. End it. Like,
Yeah.
like, all right, fine. Told a cool story in the interim, so that's neat. But
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
he's also
Um,
he's getting. I love Miyazaki's work, but he's getting way too old for this business. He needs to fucking retire. He
he's very old. Yes.
he was a fucking child in World War II. Like like what?
Damn, you're right. He's probably older than my grandfather was.
Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah, pretty confident. Yeah, 84 years.
Yeah.
Grandpa was a little older than him, 5 years older than him, but he is in that zone. Also, goddamn, he still looks good.
Yeah, that's the curse of us being. Well, you're half white. I'm mostly white, so.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm Hispanic. I'm gonna end up looking like the guy from Most Interesting Man in the World commercials before I go, so I'll take it. I'm
Bro,
gonna
I'm
have
I'm 24 and I have creases on my face that like just make me look like Gordon Ramsay. So I'll fucking.
I'm gonna have 5 golden years in my mid 70s where I'm gonna be the hottest man alive, and then it's gonna swiftly be over.
Uh,
But yeah, no. I like that idea though. Like, it sounds like what we're playing with is the idea that of a truly neutral part of this setting. Because everything we have here, like sidereal, that implies distance. Transient, it implies like passing, an intentionality, but a not here-ness. Obfuscate, literally to willfully not be seen, or to willfully hide something. Ley lines are hidden knowledge and hidden paths. Insouciance is a willingness to be completely like worry-free and carefree. And esoteric is literally basically hidden knowledge, or at least knowledge that's just like not often used. This is literally a forgotten. This is a faction. This is a forgotten faction, or this is a part of the setting that no one else thinks about. Or this is a part of the setting everyone else takes for granted. Just like whatever.
I think I don't know. I'm thinking of groups of people that hold knowledge individually and they scarcely share it with even other people that like take after them. The most recent one I can think of is like the mushroom people and common side effects. Like
Yes, I love them.
that's the most recent thing I can think of is they all are incredibly intelligent and have like a bunch of shit under the surface, but they hardly work together because they don't get along at all because they are very like abrasive assholes to each other. And I like the idea that these whoever these transient wanderers are, that's redundant, but whoever they are, like they don't get along super well with one another. They're kind of hermits in their own way. They're like traveling hermits, and they scarcely share their information with others because of that. They don't. Maybe they're just too esoteric most of the time. Maybe they're so enraptured in insouciance that they don't really care if somebody understands what they're bestowing upon them. I think that these souls should maybe be gods, like dead gods. Like their information, they're like, well, we bestowed all this information in life and nobody listened to us, so why the fuck is anybody going to listen to us in death? So maybe these souls are a little bit stranger looking. Maybe they're a bit taller, a bit lankier. They have like uncannily long limbs. Or they appear as beasts or birds or any sort of entity. I just imagine that I'm imagining one just completely burdened with like a scroll that runs on forever. This is something I had in one of my own settings. So I'm not afraid to use it again. A guy that literally has a scroll that leaves a trail wherever he goes, and at the very end, it's like the paper is getting so mangled and torn from just the elements that it kind of deletes his trail over the course of years, centuries, or decades, centuries.
I like that idea. I really like the idea of something that's very long and unnaturally so.
Hmm.
My mind is like, as we mentioned, like the idea of like distant stars, that kind of thing. What if what these guys, the knowledge these guys possess, is the knowledge to just sort of move on from the state of hereafter? So they don't care. They don't care about whether anyone else chooses to like listen or learn. It's knowledge that they have. It might not be the thing that they value most. It's probably the thing that they're tracked down for the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's for folks that are like so burnt out or tired of the squabble, the war. And they're like, oh, we hunt these guys down. My mind immediately goes to like these things that are very long and tall, and so much so they almost might be considered invisible. Like I have like a daddy long legs kind of thing in my head, but not like literally bipedal in my mind, literally humanoid, but very thin, almost like wire. And I like the idea. We talked about like sidereal. What if they're literally like luminous beings in terms of they're so full of knowledge? Their heads are literally light. Like from a distance, they would just look like stars traveling across the sky. And then you get close enough and you see the little super thin body, and they just sort of bend down and they can talk to you, and you realize, oh no, that's not a star like hundreds of miles away. It's literally just a dude who's like standing 100 feet over you with a shining rice for a head.
I like that imagery a lot. It's very creepy, and it's like I imagine that these guys walk the ley lines, like
Yep.
and if they don't walk them, they create them. I like the idea that they're not regular souls. They couldn't have just been like a regular Joe Schmo like you or I, and then died and then became that. No, these guys were like great philosophers, or like hyper intelligent, or literally lesser gods. Like because that's one thing we haven't touched on is like what happens when a god dies. Like, do we have gods in our setting? And I was like, I did like the idea of like massive, like maybe remains of gods that have sort of just been worn down over time, but they're still alive. They just can't die, but they've just like, I don't know, they've decayed so much that like the only thing that's left of them is just like bones and like leathery sinews.
What if? So I like the idea of it being possible. I mean, we're coming from like a setting which is drawing we know from multiple worlds, right? Like we know the hereafter is a destination for more than one place. So it makes sense. Maybe some worlds don't have gods, so maybe some worlds do. But maybe here in the hereafter, there's an equivalency. We've talked before about the idea of incandescence in the setting, where this is the thing, the state to which the people of hereafter, the creatures of hereafter, seek to ascend to. So complex order wants to abstract, primal simplicity wants to cultivate, shattering chaos wants to ascend. What if these are like we've talked about what happens when people who are alive come into the hereafter? What if people can achieve incandescence elsewhere and then arrive incandescent? So you could be a god and be equivalent incandescent, or a wise person and have already achieved some degree of self-actualization. And they arrive and they are distinctly different already. They don't need to hunt for memories. They don't want to engage in this struggle because it's not for them. They're self-fulfilled. They already arrived complete.
It's an interesting idea. That implies the existence of monastic tradition and stuff like that. And God, we were just talking about those monks, and I could not tell you the fucking name of it. It's a 4-syllable Japanese word.
Yeah.
But yeah, literally, like they believed that our monks don't need to necessarily believe that there is enlightenment in mummifying yourself. They're just so they're highly empathetic creatures to the point where they're so empathetic they no longer care.
Yeah.
They've spent their entire lives caring about other things beyond themselves, and then eventually collapse in on themselves like a supernova, and then they realize that, oh, the secret to everything is nothing. And they sort of become these voidlings. They literally absorb light around them. They're not evil.
No,
They just
definitely not.
they absorb the very light and incandescence from anything and understand it and perceive things in a way that isn't human or even remotely mortal. Like they just they understand things on a cosmological scale that other mortals could never.
I like that a lot. It's literally the it is the like the summary of that Buddhistic style of like enlightenment, where it's sort of, yeah, there's a point where your body is literally just a tool. You don't care. Like the only thing that matters is what you've learned, and what you've learned eventually is literally just, hey, you know what the secret to happiness is? Chill the fuck out. Vibe.
Yeah.
Basically, Buddha's just like, I can sit under a tree and vibe, and I'll be happy. And they made a religion about this. Like, and you know, it sounds like that's what these guys are. They possess this knowledge, and they probably, because of what they are, maybe again, like you said, they could have been gods. Like back when they came from, a god of death arrives in the hereafter. They understand life and death. They might have even known what the hereafter is before they arrived, just because of their domain. They're not involved. As far as they're concerned, that's just something they know. And they just go about doing their thing, separate from all the vessels and all the mortals down there doing whatever they're doing.
That's where the conflict comes into play, I think. Because you have literal god vessels that are gods of death, and then you have a guy who just is incredibly intelligent, emotionally attached to nothing except for, you know, the well-being of everything, and they're sort of like on the same level. And the god of death is like, you know nothing. And he's just like, you're right. That's the point. I don't know anything. Knowledge is a construct. We are literally creatures of empathy. We should be in touch with our deepest emotions, not numbers and words on a page. And thus creates the conflict of like, this god's like, you're a fucking hippie. Yeah, but like, no, like, I really like the idea of these guys just like wandering and crossing each other's path and just being like, brr, brr, and just kind of like shake their heads at each other and then move on. Like I imagine that hereafter in the grand cosmological scale of the stars, since I wanted to bring sidereal into this, I think a lot of them refer to hereafter as the first step. Like this is the beginning of their cosmological pilgrimage.
Oh, I like that.
Like they completed the process. Yeah, they completed the process in life, and now they have the rest of eternity to carry out their pilgrimage.
I mean, it does, in a weird, fun kind of way, make sense. You know, mortality is a distinctly limited period. And in the scope of the universe, on a purely scientific reading of it, like, the span of a human life isn't even roundable. It's insanely small. And so the idea of like, yeah, if there's something after this, odds are it's going to be significantly longer. And if you're talking about immortality, life after death, that's a lot of fucking time. That's so much time.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that really does make sense. That's almost like a nymph stage. Mortality is the nymph stage of what everything else becomes. Yeah. And so I really like that idea.
Because you're a novice of the cosmos before you die. Like even at the ripe old age of like 90 or 100, however long you manage to live.
Oh yeah, it's nothing.
And
that's nothing.
That's just that's the nascent understanding. Like you're starting to get into advanced shit now. Like we're getting into the theoretical physics of the known universe now. Like, and it's up to you to put these theories of the theoretical to test and find out if it's actually true or not. And to what purpose? Nothing. Your own understanding, the own satisfaction of knowledge, and having a deeper empathetic connection with the actual universe itself.
I very much dig that, and I love the idea. Like, to me, these things are almost like the mountain giants in The Hobbit. They're just like they are a footnote, but they're a horrifyingly cool, massive, distant footnote. Like just that one moment. There's some people who do not like the Hobbit movies, and I understand. 100%.
They didn't need to be 3 movies, I can tell you that much.
That I can agree on. However, I will say one of the best moments in the first movie was them encountering the giants and putting in stark contrast how small everything they're doing is. Like these giant things just walking in the distance that sound like thunder. That to anyone else would be like, oh, whatever, it's weather. It's not weather. It's them and their whole culture. And they're out here kicking ass on each other. And to us, they're just like, oh, it's distant thunder, ignore. And that's these things. These things, except, probably a lot less violent. Because these things literally are carefree. These entities do not, I don't think they, in their enlightened state, possess enough drive to actually achieve violence. And I don't think they can. And I don't think it matters to them either. Like, these things are so powerful and so towering and so much further along that the idea of a vessel, I think this is something that cannot be hurt. I think that's what I'm getting at. I think these things are beyond the reach of the weaponry of the vessels and the mortals of hereafter.
I think they're ephemeral in nature. Like things just pass through them because that's another connection to philosophy. Do not allow things to hurt you. Just let them pass through you as they mean nothing in the grand scale. So there's probably been like parties that have tried to like go out and seek these guys and maybe kill them, take whatever they have on their head, and they can't even lay a finger on them. And then these things refuse to lay fingers on them because war is a pointless thing. It is literally it's a time buffer. It's something that just slows things down in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, like literally to them, I feel like their wanderings, their musings, their day-to-day experience, they're almost genie-like in a weird kind of way. Like if you stumble across these things and you can convince one to turn enough attention to you to even like just converse with it for a minute, the knowledge you could gain could theoretically transform you. But that also would imply that like these things need to be interested long enough to care. And I think that again, their very nature, they're not. Like they might for a moment turn their attention to you and utterly just fill you with knowledge and wisdom of ages. And then for them to be like, and bye. And then that's it. Like, just drop the hottest cosmic bars imaginable. And then just walk on.
These guys are like Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, 100% they are. They 100% are.
I like the idea that when they bestow knowledge, they just go like, and then like sometimes it's just so much knowledge, it just causes them to explode. Like,
yeah. It's so sad Steve Jobs died of ligma. What?
Who's Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
Ligma balls.
Ligma balls. I very much like that idea. I feel like maybe this is that's probably the knowledge I think that's most sought after by people. Is like, for some will come to the towering sage and be like, how do I win? And the sage will be like, that's not an interesting question, and they'll walk on. Like they just won't give a shit. Like someone's coming after them for like naked obvious advantage or whatever. But unless it's a very specific, interesting scenario, they're not interested in that. They're not kingmakers. But getting out, I think that's what they know more than anyone. I like the idea of this being two parts. You have the towering sages being these incandescent individuals. You mentioned like floating away and exploding. And I like that idea. What if the sky in this world is full of stars? The stars, however, are just vessels that have left. We've taken the advice and they're just gone. They're done. They move on to whatever comes next.
They're reborn to become new universes.
There you go.
They become universes themselves. They become gods. Like even if they were gods in death or in life, that doesn't mean that they will inherently become gods again.
So yeah, I love the use of gods in life and then cat.
I just had to requisition this god of life.
Aw, sweet baby.
Little orange.
I like that very much. It's very have you ever watched the movie Akira by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Very Akira-esque.
Hey, you're a cretin. Yeah. Huh?
Stay right there, orbital laser fires up. I really do love that. It's such a such an interesting idea. I've actually played with that myself in my own settings, in my TTRPG settings, and the name of my handle, the last Omnitect. Omnitects are literally what happens when a universe dies, and all that knowledge becomes a sentient entity and starts traveling to other places. So like it's that same kind of like cosmic egg energy, but in reverse. And I really like that. That's a very cool idea. Maybe that's what their little glowing heads are. It's a whole universe in there.
I am trying to think of a good word to call these guys because
So, so far, I had them listed as the Towering Sages. But that's literally, that's just a temporary working title.
I almost so like okay, I need to stop looking at fucking AI generated garbage for an answer to this. So mere is a mega year. It's a term used to describe 1 million years.
Oh my god, never heard that, but I love that.
Or ma, which is a meganum, which is, or Maya, which is also another term for. Anyway, I'm gonna go with Mir. I think Mirlings would be a good name for them. Million-year
Okay.
beings, like they literally just have to experience every aspect of, not necessarily unlife. They need to access and understand every aspect of the cosmos itself in order to come forward. And there's no better place to find that than with all of the knowledge of the formerly living distilled into fonts all over the world. And not to mention, they probably hop between places and travel these ley lines that other people have traveled. That's not to say that they've also, there's not a chance for them failing.
Oh yeah.
But these, I like the idea of like leaving it up in mystery, but I like calling them Mirlings just because they're million-year beings. They may not live for 1 million years. They may live for longer or shorter amounts of time, but I like the idea that people just call them Mirlings.
Yeah.
So, we have these weird little esoteric creatures that have very, they're the ones that travel and perhaps even make the ley lines, question mark. Let's leave that a question mark, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They're transient. They
Mhm.
wander around. They're oven related to the stars because they are. Um, they just are those things.
Yeah.
They're obfuscating in the way that their knowledge is so overwhelming that nobody could really understand it. And even if you attempted to understand it, it could literally cause you. It. I think these guys are one of the few things that can literally just cause you to outright die. But they're so pacifistic that they'll never do. They're like your Aether whales from Atanria. Like they're
Oh yeah.
incredibly powerful beings, but they're not ones to do harm. They just like have a
Mhm.
light influence over things. But if they wanted to, they could absolutely kill you. They could double
Yeah.
dead you.
Yeah, very much. Again, it's Dr. Manhattan, right? He
Yeah.
absolutely could snap his fingers and turn and basically go, "Hey, what if your electrons were protons for a couple seconds?" You know, like sure, atomize the whole world. Or he could just get a sandwich. He'll probably just get the sandwich and just leave you be. If that, if you won't just, enjoy the energy of the universe. And so like I very much like that idea of these entities being very powerful, but they are not their concerns are so far above that of the vessels of hereafter. They just are not on the same level. It's an ant to us, right? Like if
Yeah.
we've ever seen a sugar ant walking on a table, the average person, or like outside, let's do it outside. If you see a sugar ant walking on the gravel outside, your impulse isn't to hurt it. It's to walk on because who cares, right?
Just an ant.
Unless you're that kind of sadist where you're just specifically, I'm going to kill everything I encounter, in which case, get help. There's plenty of places. But, and I'm not one of them. But like for most people, we just don't concern ourselves with small insects when we're outside. It's just where they live. Same thing here. These mirrorlings stride across the hereafter, so tall, so above everything, effectively impervious, filled with esoteric knowledge of ages, and can literally light you up with just a word. And they just have no interest in it at all. It's less than boring to them. And I very much dig that. I love the idea of these things.
I mean, they're basically like if you wanted to keep on the insect allegory, they could literally just turn their head into a magnifying glass and fucking melt you into the ground. Like,
right? Yeah, their head is literally like a little. It's a little pocket infinity. It's this brilliant spark of pure light. Like I imagine when they get close, they have to be very careful. I literally imagine these guys being so physically thin that their body might as well be fishing wire or paperclip. Like, if you look at them the wrong way, you might not notice they're there. And in fact, at night, they literally just look like traveling stars. But it doesn't matter. They are still just getting that close to that level of knowledge, the source of that knowledge, where they keep it cradled. It's probably dangerous. It's like approaching the elephant's foot, right? Like, you can get one good picture. It better be a good one, because after that, you're dead.
I think this is a good spot to call it, because if we add anything more to these guys, like, it might get a bit too complicated.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is perfect. Well, I very much like what we've made, Red.
Me too. I like these little guys.
Me too.
Little guys.
Weird long noodle god mind creatures. And if you all liked what we made, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, please. We're a small YouTube channel, and everything that you can do to help us, it goes a long way. So thank you.
Really does. Thank you, Omni. And if you really wanted to continue supporting us and helping out, I have all of our links listed below. The Raddy's Black link, Omni's links. Omni makes comic books, so definitely check his shit out. It's really fucking cool. And he's got like 3 now. Do you have 3?
2, working on a possible 3rd at some point, but
I know you were flirting with the 3rd one. I didn't know if you ever executed it, because I've just been like flickering in and out of reality. But I'm not working on a whole lot right now other than this show. I'd like to get back to streaming more frequently. So, and I was thinking of streaming. I don't know. I'll have to think about what I want to stream. But yeah. In the interim time, I'll be doing this every single Wednesday that I can. And yeah, we will see you guys same time next week.
Take care, folks. Keep writing.
Be good.